welcome to the next edition of the HP Discover podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inner Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing sponsored discussion on IT innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Once again, we're focusing on how companies are adapting to the new style of IT to improve IT performance and deliver better user experiences and business results. This time, we're coming to you directly from the HP Discover 2013 conference in Barcelona. We were here the week of December 9 to learn directly from IT and business leaders alike how big data, cloud, and converged infrastructure are supporting their goals. Our next innovation case study highlights how Shunra Software is using service virtualization to help its developer audience and customer base improve their distribution, creation, and lifecycle support of applications, and they're also using HP software along the way. We're going to learn more about that and how they're doing with our guest. We're here with Todd DeCapua. He's the Vice President of Channel Operations and Services at Shunra Software in Philadelphia. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you, Dana. It's great to be here with you today.
So let's think a little bit about this marketplace. There are a lot of trends that are affecting software developers. They've got mobile on their minds. They've got time issues. They have to speed up how they're doing it. And all, of course, faster, better, cheaper along the way. What did I miss? What are some of the bigger trends that you're seeing in software?
I think one of the biggest ones that I didn't hear you mention, and especially around innovation and thinking about results, specifically business results, one that comes to mind is Agile. And Agile is something that fortunately we've had an opportunity to work with quite a bit, and our capabilities all structured around not only covering the bits that you talked about with cloud, with mobile as well. We look at things like the speed, the quality, and ultimately the value to the customer. So really focusing on those business results, which sometimes get lost, but I try to always go back to them and let's focus on what's important to the business, what's important to the customer, then maybe what's important to IT, and how does all that circle around the value.
Mm-hmm. And of course, there's more moving parts these days with mobile. We have many more networks. People are grasping how to make quality before actually getting into production. How does service virtualization come to bear on that?
Absolutely. So as you look at almost every organization today, something's distributed. So their customers might be on mobile devices out in the real world, distributed. They might be working remotely from home. They might have a distribution center. They might have a truck that has a mobile device on it. So all these different pieces, you're right, network is a significant part that unfortunately many organizations have failed to notice and failed to consider as they would do any type of testing. So network virtualization gives you that capability. Where service virtualization comes into play is really as looking at things like speed and quality. What if these services are not available? Service virtualization allows you to then make them available to your developers. So in the early stage, and again, where Shunra has been able to really play a huge difference in these organizations is by bringing network virtualization in with service virtualization, we're able to recreate their production environments with 100% scale all prior to production. So again, getting back to the idea of innovation, some people are seeing these as innovation thoughts of test environment. When we think about the value to the business, now you're able to deliver the product working. So it's speed to market, quality of product, and ultimately value to your customer and to your business.
And another constituency that we should keep in mind are those all-important operators. And they are also dealing with a lot of moving parts these days, transformation, modernization, picking and choosing different ways to host their data centers. How do they fit into this, and how does service virtualization cut across that continuum to perhaps improve the lives of operators?
So when I think of operators, these are people on the operations side of the house. And you're right, because as the delivery has sped up through things like Agile, it's your operations team that is sitting there and ultimately has to be the owners of these applications. So how is it that service virtualization can benefit them, and how is it that network virtualization can benefit them is by being able to recreate these scenarios. So unfortunately, there is still some reactive actions required in production today. So you're going to have a production incident, but you can now understand the network in production, capture those conditions, and recreate that in the environment. You can also do the same for the services. So now we have the ability to quickly and easily recreate a production incident in a prior to production environment. So now the operations team can be part of the team that's fixing it. Because again, the ultimate question that I've gotten from CIOs, how is it that you can make sure this never happens again? So we now have the way to quickly and confidently recreate it and fix it the first time. Again, not having to change code in production on the fly. Again, this is one of the scariest moments in any of the times when I've been at the customer site or when I was an employee and had to watch that happen.
And as you mentioned earlier with Agile, we're seeing many more iterations on applications, very rapid times when they're improved or changed. They have to react to their markets. How does the service and network virtualization aid in being able to produce many more iterations of an application but still maintain that high quality?
So one of our customers actually told us that prior to leveraging network virtualization with service virtualization, he was doing 80% of his testing in production, simply because he knew the shortcomings and he needed to test it, but he had no way of recreating it. Well, now let's think about Agile. Let's think about how do we shift left? How do we get the proven enterprise tools in the developer's hands sooner, more often, so that we can drive quality earlier in the process? Again, that's where these two components really play a critical role. As you look at it more specifically, and maybe going just a hair deeper, how is it that within these continuous integration environments, the continuous development, continuous deployment, how is it all that automated testing that you're already doing? How can you incorporate performance into that? Or, as I call it, how do you build performance in from the beginning? So maybe even as a business person or as a developer or as a BA or a Scrum Master, how is it that you're building performance into your user scenarios today? How is it that you're setting them up for understanding how that feature function or that story is going to perform? But let's think about it as we're creating that story, not once we get 2 or 3 sprints in and we have our hardening sprint, where then we're going to run our performance scenario. Let's do it early, let's do it often.
Now, if we're really lucky, we can control the world and environment that we live in, but more often than not these days, we're dealing with APIs, we're dealing with outside services, we have boundaries that are being crossed, but things are happening across that boundary that we can't control. So is there a benefit here too when we're dealing with composite applications where elements of that service are not available for your insight, but that you need to be able to anticipate that and then react to it quickly should a change occur?
I can't agree with you more, and it's funny, I'm kind of laughing here, Dana, because this morning I was riding the metro in Barcelona, and as I'm coming down through the metro, and before I got to the stop here, I looked down to my phone because I was expecting a critical email to come in, and lo and behold, my phone pops up a message and says, "We're sorry, service is unavailable." Well, I could clearly see that I had 1 out of 5 bars on the orange network, and I was on the edge network, so again, it was about a 2.5 G connection, and I said, I should still be able to get data, but what did my phone do? It just simply popped up and said, "Sorry, cannot retrieve email because of a poor data connection." Well, then I started thinking about it some more, and as I was engaging with other folks today at the show, I asked them, I said, why is it that the developer of that application found it necessary to alert me 3 times in a row that the reason it couldn't get my email was because of a poor data connection? Why didn't it just not wait 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds until it did, and then have it reach out and query it again and pull it down? This is just one very simple example that, again, it was something that I had this morning. And again, you're right, there's constantly changing conditions in the world. Bandwidth, latency, packet loss, and jitter are those conditions that we're exposed to all day, every day. And again, whether you're in a BMW driving down the road at 100 miles per hour, that car is now a mobile phone or mobile device on wheels, constantly in communication. Or if you're riding the metro or the tube and you have your mobile device on your hands, again, constantly changing conditions. So network virtualization and service virtualization gives you the ability to recreate those scenarios so that you can build that type of resiliency into your applications, and ultimately your customers have the experience that you want them to have.
Great. Todd, tell us a bit about Shunra and your application performance engineering solutions.
So application performance engineering was really something that was created within the industry over a number of years, and it's meant to be a methodology, it's meant to be an approach. Again, Shunra plays a role in that, but a lot of people had thought about it as testing. Then people thought about it as performance testing. And kind of the next level, as many of us in the industry have defined it, is application engineering. It's a lot more than just that, because really you need to dive behind the application, really understand the ins and the outs. How does everything tie together? And again, you had mentioned some of the composite applications and the complexities there, and I'm including the endpoints or the devices of a mobile device connecting through. Now you introduce cloud into the equation, and it gets 10 times worse. So again, thinking about application performance engineering, it's more of an art and a skill. There is a science behind it. However, having that APE background knowledge and experience gives you the ability to now go into these composite apps, go into these cloud deployments, and leverage the right tools and the right process to be able to quickly understand and optimize those solutions.
Well, it's fairly obvious to me, but I do get this question from time to time. Why aren't the older scripting and testbed approaches to quality control good enough? Why can't we keep doing what we've been doing?
So this is a very often asked question of myself. And in the United States recently, recently being October the 1st of 2013, there was a large healthcare system that was being rolled out across the United States. And unfortunately, they used the old testing methodologies and have had some significant challenges. And yes, I do know that HP and Shunra have both been engaged on October the 2nd to assist. But again, I mean, it's just one more example of here is the changing and evolving for many positive reasons architectures that we have today. However, these test methodologies, sometimes the tools, and many of times the people have not evolved with the technology or architecture. We're now at kind of that tipping point where, yes, you've been able to get away with it for a little while, you're no longer able to get away with it. So understanding application performance engineering will help you to reduce those production incidents, and again, all due to inaccurate results that you're getting in your test environment using your current methodologies. Really 50% of our customers come to us in a crisis mode of, hey, we just had this issue, you know, I know you told us this was going to happen, but we really need your help now. So also thinking about, you know, how do we shift left? How do we build performance in? All these components, just have it built in, have it be automatic, and get the results that are accurate.
Now, of course, HP has service virtualization. You have network virtualization. How are they coming together? Maybe also explain the relationship and how Shunra and HP together go to market.
Absolutely. So to many people's surprise, this relationship is more than a decade old. Shunra's network virtualization capability has long time been built into LoadRunner, also now being built into Performance Center. There's other capabilities that we have that are built into their UFT products. In addition, within service virtualization, we're now building that product into there. Again, it's one that when you think about anything that has some sort of distribution or network involved, that's where network virtualization needs to come into play. And some people have a hard time initially understanding the service virtualization need, but a very simple example I often like to use is an organization like a bank. They will have a credit check maybe as you're applying for a loan. That credit check, again, is not going to be a service that the bank creates. They're going to outsource it to one of the many credit check services. That distribution from wherever that data center is out to where that service is, there's a network involved there. So now in your test environment, you need to recreate that and take that into consideration as part of your end-to-end testing. Whether it's functional, whether it's performance, load, it doesn't matter. So yes, as we think about Shunra and network virtualization and the partnership, very tight OEM partnership that we've had with HP for service virtualization as well as their ability to virtualize the users. Again, it's been an OEM relationship, and our R&D teams do sit together as they're doing their development so that this is a seamless product for the HP customer to be able to get the benefit and the value for their business and for their customers.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what you get when you do this right. It seems to me the, again, obvious points are getting to the problem sooner before you're in production, extending across network variables, across other composite application type variables. But I'm going to guess that there's some other benefits that we haven't hit on. So when you've set up your testing, when you've got virtualization as your tool, what happens in terms of paybacks? Not just the obvious ones, but it seems to me that this becomes a strategic benefit, influencing your business in terms of your overall performance, not just your application's performance.
Yeah, so there's many benefits that I know we've already covered. There's dozens more that we could get into. I guess ones that I would highlight and really being able to pull all the different pieces that we've been talking about together, shorter release times. There was a survey recently done by Tech Validate. It was done in February of 2013. The findings were actually very compelling in that they found a global bank was able to speed up their deployment or application delivery by 30 to 40%. And again, what does that mean for that organization as compared to their competitor? If you can get to market 30 to 40% faster, millions, billions, potentially, talk about numbers of customers, talk about brands. Again, it's a significant play there. Other things like rapid deployments. So as we think about Agile, as we think about mobile, it's all about how fast can we get this feature function out. Being able to leverage service virtualization in a greater way, reducing costs associated. Again, the one example that I shared, the customer was able to virtualize the users, virtualize the network, and virtualize the services. Prior to that, he would have never been able to, justify the cost of rebuilding a production environment for test, but by using user virtualization, network virtualization, and service virtualization, he was able to get to 100% at a fraction of the cost. And again, you've heard me mention time and time again, more automation. This is a key piece of how is it you can test early, test often, ultimately driving these accurate results and getting to the automated optimization recommendations.
All right. How about getting started? For organizations that have been doing traditional testing, perhaps have been using some HP products, but they've been resisting going the full Monty, if you will. Any suggestions about skills, organization? How do you get going?
Well, I guess the most fun piece for me in thinking about that is you actually need to do something. So I can't tell you how many times I get started and people, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Yeah, it's wonderful. Or they walk out of one of the sessions at Discover and they say, yes, I love it. Yep, I got my next 3 things that I need to do. Well, more than a tool, it's really about the people. How is it that you can get this vision? And maybe it's starting with, give me one simple business case. Let's go through what that business case is and help me to understand what's the value to your organization. Can we calculate out some ROI? Can we get to what is the break-even point of this investment? Which I know I hate to start talking about business. I hate to start talking about metrics. But again, as we think about innovation, as we look at the history books in innovation and what it means with the new style of IT, being able to improve IT performance, delivering this better user experience, and ultimately, who's paying the bill? It's the business. So if we can't deliver business results, is all of this for naught? So again, to get started, there's a number of different pieces that I could recommend, but rather than create this huge strategy and everything else, what I would recommend doing is let's find what that, I hate to use the reference minimal viable product, but really that's what I hear when I'm in these smaller startup organizations. It's what is that minimal viable product? How can we deliver the most value with the least investment in the shortest period of time? Show that incremental value and then start expanding it more. It could be expanding it to other teams. it could be expanding it into other business units, and then it could be going to the entire enterprise. But let's start with that small scale, doing it right, and delivering that speed, the quality, and the value.
Great. All right, before we wrap it up, I'd like to just perhaps look a little bit into the future. Things have been moving so rapidly. What comes next in terms of software productivity? Where do you think organizations should be thinking in terms of vision and anticipation?
So the vision piece and the future piece, I see Agile, and I see mobile, and I see cloud. There's really some significant risks that are out in the marketplace today, and I think as organizations look to leverage these capabilities to benefit their business and their customers, it's maybe they need to just slow down for a moment, and again, not create this huge strategy, but to really go after how is it that I can help that to increase my revenue stream by 20% in the next 90 days. And another one that I've had great success in, and our organization has, is, what is that highest visibility, highest risk project that you have in your organization today? Again, as I look at the Wall Street Journal and I read the headlines every day, it's scary. But what's coming in the future? Again, we can all look into our crystal balls and say, this is what it is. Why not focus on one or two small things of what we have now, and actually think about how we're mitigating our risk of, again, looking at large organizations that are making commitments to migrate critical applications into the cloud? Well, you're biting off a fairly significant risk, which there's not a lot there to catch you when you do it wrong. And quite frankly, nearly everybody is doing it wrong. So again, what if we started small and find a way that leveraging, again, some of these new capabilities, you could actually do it right? And then you'd start to realize some of the benefits from cloud, from mobile, from other channels that your organization's looking to benefit.
I guess, too, the role of software keeps increasing in many organizations. It's not a tool, it's becoming the business itself, and a fundamental part of the business requires lots of tender love and care, right?
You got it. And again, the only other bit that I would add on to that is looking at the World Quality Report that was presented this morning by HP, Capgemini, and Sogeti. Again, they highlighted that there is an increased spend from the IT budget, a rather significant increase in spend from last year in testing. And I think exactly what you're saying is, organizations didn't enter the market thinking of themselves as a software house, but time and time again, we're seeing how people who treat what they do as a software house ultimately is improving not only life for their internal customers, but also their external customers. So I think you're right. Yeah, the more that we can think about that and really tune ourselves and make ourselves lean and focused on delivering better quality products, we're going to be in the winning circle more often.
Well, very good. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been learning about how Shunra Software is improving its network and virtualization and service virtualization in partnership with HP for overall improved software development quality. So please join me in thanking our guest, Todd DeCapua. He's the Vice President of Channel Operations and Services at Shunra Software. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you all.
And yes, thank you to our audience for joining this special new style of IT discussion, coming to you from the HP Discover 2013 conference in Barcelona. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host for this ongoing series of HP-sponsored discussions. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.